Welcome into another Best Ball stream. We're running this every single Wednesday from now until kickoff, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Last week, I was joined with Justin Herzig. The week before that, I was joined with Dan Hendry. And today, I'm joined with Davis Mattek, just hitting all the big names in the Best Ball streets out here. Right now, we are waiting for this room to fill. So if you're looking right now, draftersfantasy.com, you can hop on. We have 4 of the 12 spots, so we're waiting for this one to fill out here. $20 to join, $500,000 up top. And if you use promo code FOOTBALLGUYS, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Davis, this is the first time we've ever done a stream together, so excited to finally meet. You know, I think that's what you call it when you do these virtual shows together. But before we get into the show, start drafting strategy and stuff like that, I know you're doing an independent YouTube channel now, so congrats on launching that. Go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you, what your schedule is looking like in the preseason, all that fun stuff.
I stream every day, or if it's a weekend, there'll be a video on my channel. So daily fantasy football videos over at Davis_Mattek on YouTube. We got lots of stuff going on there. You know, all your best ball bros are over there. Gonna be hopefully transitioning into some more like redraft style content. I just did my first high stakes draft yesterday. We did the $350 championship over on the NFFC yesterday, and did not draft a very good team, but you know,
what spot were you?
It happens. We picked from the 4, and my co-manager who I had on with me for that one wanted to take Barkley over Jefferson, which is like in a vacuum, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
But we got snapped off on Lad McConkey right before we picked. Lad McConkey went 21. We picked the 21, so we took McBride. But basically, there is just no recovering your wide receiver room after that. You know, you're gonna hate your wide receivers in that combination of team, which we did hate our wide receivers.
We had a similar where we ended up, we did get McConkey and McBride, but we were sitting at the 8 spot. My co-manager and I, we were going back and forth. I wanted McCaffrey there. He thought it was a little early for McCaffrey. We ended up going with Brian Thomas, and then, you know, felt okay with a falling Joe Mixon in round 5 as our RB2. But now with this news coming out about NFI, I guess that's a good kind of conversation we can have while we're waiting for this one to fill. How much weight are you putting into this training camp news that we're getting right now? Like when you see a veteran like Joe Mixon, we know he's dealing with an injury, but when you see he lands on the NFI list, is that something that causes panic, or are you just kind of not worrying too much throughout this first week of training camp?
First week, I think you need to probably not overreact too much. Like Darren Waller being on the PUP list, not a big deal, right?
Right. We knew that was coming.
The team said it wasn't a big deal. There's not an injury. He just is, you know, he's an old, what is he, 32 years old? Like, he's probably not feeling he's just not totally up to speed right now. And if I understand the difference between the PUP and the NFI correctly, it is like a contract thing. Like it's like a CYA thing from the team itself.
Right.
So doesn't seem like a big deal to me yet. Now, the same beat writers that were reporting about him being in a boot before, if Joe Mixon is in a boot on July 23rd, that actually does seem like quite a big deal, but there has not been any clear reporting on that one way or the other.
And there's no real upside for teams to have to, you know, say what these injuries are in the offseason. They can keep it close to the chest. So when you see guys like, you know, Najee Harris, like we hear these superficial injuries, but then we like the first day of training camp, we get a little bit more light about what this injury might actually be. So there's really no upside to showing their cards when they don't have to. So yeah, I think you kind of do have to look at everyone on its own. When you see Luther Burden, you know, he hurt himself at rookie OTAs, and it sounded like that was just not a big deal at all. Everyone was expecting him back, but he still isn't practicing as well. Is that one that you maybe get a little bit more worried about, like a rookie who is getting his first taste of NFL action as opposed to a vet who already kind of knows? Like Joe Mixon, if he shows up a week before the season kicks off, I'm still feeling okay about that. But Luther Burden, if he starts missing install at Bears training camp, I get a little bit worried about that.
Yeah, basically any rookie who's not practicing right now. They said that Luther Burden at Bears training camp today fell on a football, got the wind knocked out of him, and then left practice. Like any of that stuff, you've got to be concerned, because not only are they not learning the offense, but the team themselves are not including him in their plans, right? I mean, that's just how it goes with rookies. You're not available. Like, you know, the coach is not going to say, all right, well, you know, you haven't been here, but we're going to bench, you know, veteran X, Y, or Z for you right now. Like it's just really not the way that it works. That's why rookie production is so often backweighted in the second half of the season.
Right. So, I don't know, trying to kill some time here as we're waiting for this one to fill. I am seeing this $3 one. The mini is starting to fill a little bit quicker. So if we see it getting to that point, we can always jump out of the main event and hop into there. But picture question about drafters. You know, obviously we talked a little bit pre-show. It's a very different format to what people are used to on Underdog. You're not playing for the playoffs, you know, week 15, 16, 17. You still, you know, want teams that are going to do well in the playoffs, but it doesn't really matter. We're looking at accumulative scoring here. So does that kind of change your philosophy on how you're looking at rookies, or do you still want these rookies that can be that late season hammer?
You definitely still want some rookies. Like you wouldn't be like, oh, well, I would never want to take Luther Burden, but you do have to think that week 1 is equivalent to week 17. You know, they're both 5.9% of the season. So if you are drafting, you know, Jack Besh, if you're you know what, a good example would be a guy I love in the playoff pod style contest is like Byshell Tootin.
Mhm.
I mean, certainly there's a chance that he's starting week 1 for the Jaguars, but it's a lot lower than him starting in week 8. Now that the cost, like, obviously adjusts for these things, but the idea of back-weighted production just shouldn't enter your mind at all. Like you still want to be drafting rookies because they're disproportionately going to be a larger percentage of the breakout players relative to ADP in the player, just because that is the way that the game works. But
And
also
you
you
also
don't
have
want to have
veterans
like
getting hurt. Like the same time that like these veterans are
right.
kind of falling off late in the season is when you have your rookies coming up. So, you know, we talked about like Joe Mixon earlier, like a perfect example of a guy who was just crushing it in the first half of the season, picks up an ankle injury, is basically worthless over the second half of the season. But if you can balance something like that out with a Bayshall Tootin who comes out in the second half of the season, I think that's why you still want to sprinkle these rookies in.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And like anytime the format changes, there tends to be a little bit of overreaction from drafters. Like I wouldn't
Mhm.
say like, oh, I'll never take Luther Burden. Like, you know, first off, kind of everyone has a price, right? In the contest, and I think I've only done like 3 or 4 of the marathon style scoring, so I'm not like super well versed in it. But my sense would be, my guess would be, is that actually a lot of the undervalued players probably are weirder scoring format guys, just because the field plays a little scared.
And then the only other big difference on drafters, talk about this at the top of every single show. This is full PPR scoring. So weirdly enough, though, you see people go a little bit heavier after running backs in this format. And I think that this is one of the formats where even though zero RB might not have worked out great for us in 2024, now we're seeing this big shift in ADPs where running backs are starting to get pushed up the board a little bit. And I think now looking at, you know, accumulative scoring, looking at full PPR, and looking at the way ADPs have shifted from 2024 into 2025, I've drafted a lot of teams that are just, you know, completely zero RB teams. And I feel like if you're going to do it, this is probably the best format to do it.
100%. 100%. And you are also, I would say zero RB works. The thing that is going to be very overpowered, though, is going to be hero running back, where you're still getting
Yep.
a ton of that early season production. And you can kind of eat, you know, some 8s and some 7s, you know, from your running back too. The example that I always come back to on drafters is not last year, but the year before. The winner was so many points clear that they didn't generate any quarterback points the final 3 weeks of the season. Their only quarterbacks
Get
were
out of here.
Jalen Hurts. Their only quarterbacks were Jalen Hurts and Zach Wilson.
Wow.
They generated no quarterback points the final 3 weeks of the season. Like I would say basically it's kind of like the no ball contest, because it's just
Mhm.
all about drafting league winners. That's the whole thing is about drafting league winners.
Well, how's that for a filibuster? We made it
What's
15
that?
minutes before waiting for this one to fill, but here we are now and picking from 3. I don't know if you have a strong take right here. I'm not crazy about the 3 spot. Like I feel like, you know, if I'm getting 3, I'd almost rather pick 5 and just let the drafters make the choices for me so I don't have to. But is there a strong lean that you have on this 3rd overall pick? You got to imagine Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson might be going off the board. But is there somebody, are you hoping to get one of those guys at 3, or are you okay just reaching for a CeeDee Lamb or a Saquon Barkley there at that 3 spot?
I think basically my strategy in general in the first round is I don't disagree with ADP anywhere.
Yeah.
Or I might have small like philosophical disagreements, but it's not worth the trade-off because you only get so many 101s, you only get so many 102s, you only get so many 103s. So you just take Barkley when you get them, you take Gibbs when you get them. I guess there is kind of on every site a pretty big tier break once you get past Bijan, Barkley, Gibbs, and Lamb. Then Neighbors, Puka, St. Brown, Nico, BTJ, like tends to be a spread. So if you had an opinion there, whatever, like that ADP has actually changed. In my experience, first round ADPs just don't change that often in fantasy football without an injury. Very rarely
Right.
over the course of the summer does the 12th pick become the 8th pick. But we've already seen this happen multiple times. Genty has gone from 13 up to 7. Now he's
And
back
then back
down to like
down. Yeah.
11. Yeah, it's
Christian
just very
McCaffrey's gone from like an early third round pick all the way up to 8. I mean, we do see some movements here, but I think those are guys that we knew were volatile. Like if you said who are some of the most volatile assets in the first 2 rounds at the beginning of summer, we probably would have said McCaffrey and Genty.
correct. Yeah. Which is sort of, I don't know. I mean, I actually don't know the right way to play that. Like I will say the way I played it early was I was just drafting a ton of McCaffrey. I mean, I think
Right.
at one point I had like McCaffrey in like 20% of my teams, far less than that now because ADP just kind of caught up to the ranking.
And then when he hits that 8th overall ADP, then at that point it's like, okay, now I'll just sprinkle him in because I've already packed my bags earlier in the season. So here we are, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson going off the board. Do you have you just want to stick with ADP here and go Bijan, or did you want to look at CD or Saquon here?
Yeah, I think we just take Bijan and hope that we are not left with the T Higgins tier a wide receiver. Like it's a pretty thin line to walk there. I mean, I guess it's actually quite nice. Every once in a while you'll get Bowers pushed back around there, but yeah, I mean you're never going to complain about getting Bijan Robinson.
And now we're also seeing with Omari and Hampton just shooting up boards. We're regularly seeing him go in the end of the second round. So I guess that's kind of the question. We could put a topical spin on what's happening in the news right now. If you're sitting there at 22 and Hampton is on the board, are you thinking about it, or do you think that's just way too early that people are overreacting to this Najee news?
No, I moved him. I moved him way. I mean, I've had him up for a while. I've had Najee or I've had Hampton ranked in the low 30s for weeks because like once it became clear that Najee was not going to be like they said, like Najee's not going to be there the first day of training camp. I was like, well, the only reason that Hampton was even in the mid 4th round anyways was this idea that the Chargers were going to waste 6 weeks using Najee as a starting running back. And that risk feels really diminished now. We should just see Hampton week 1. I mean, Najee Harris might not even, I mean, he probably will be active week 1, but he also might not be. And Hampton is getting all the reps with the ones right now. They're not doing the fake make him earn it style thing.
Which he's really got to earn that role over Kamani Vidal. Yeah, we'd all see through that. And I think with Najee too, like the big thing, this is his first time in a new system, first time in a new team, behind a whole new offensive line. So every day he's missing in training camp just decreases the likelihood of him having a big part in this offense. So I agree with you. I think 22 is a little bit too early, but let's start looking at our next pick. Some names that you threw around earlier while we were talking. You did say you like Ladd McConkey here in the second, Brock Bowers here in the second. You said we're hoping we don't get down to this T. Higgins tier, but who else would you be hoping for with this 22nd pick? I don't think McConkey or Bowers are going to slip, so who else are we throwing in the queue at this point?
I mean, I think then we just go, we could take Tyreek if we're worried about like positional distributions, but I think probably the best pick is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. And I don't even mind starting running back this year. I feel like there's so much wide receiver value that you can get in rounds 3 through 8 that I feel good about the teams. Of course, the downside with running backs is that they get hurt, and that's why you don't want to invest too much. But if you're looking to build a strong team, and if Bijan and JT stay healthy, that we're pretty set there. So with this next pick coming up here, I don't know who would you be looking for with this pick at 27?
Well, we are just going to, even if we don't like these wide receivers just positionally, and I do like Devontae Adams, but even if you hated these guys, you just have to plug your nose and take them. Yeah.
Yeah. So is Adams the one that you're going with, or is there another wide receiver Marvin
Yeah,
Harrison, JSN.
I would have Adams here as the highest. He also, and something that is just quite nice with Adams and with JSN here and with Tet McMillan in this range is that their quarterbacks are cheap. Stacks
Yes.
very easy, like super easy way to supercharge your drafters, main event teams, your any of your marathon style contests is getting a team that just collectively outperforms ADP. You know, team that's projected to be the 27th highest scoring team, but is the 19th highest scoring team. That will be a, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats style thing for you.
And you talk about trying to find those guys that you can stack with quarterbacks late. Again, talking about that NFFC stream that I did on Monday, we opened up our draft with Brian Thomas, Lad McConkey, Trey McBride, Tetaroa McMillan, Stephon Diggs, Darnell Mooney, Brandon Ayuk, all guys that have great quarterback stacking options that you can get for really, really cheap. So I always do kind of think about that in the early rounds. Obviously, you want to take value and you want to get the good players, but it is nice when you get a guy like Devontae Adams and you know that you'll probably be able to just throw Matthew Stafford on in round 15 and not really have to pay up for it.
I mean, yeah, like, and obviously Stafford, you're not expecting him to be that high of a scorer. Like, I mean,
Right.
Stafford ceiling is, I don't know, maybe he finishes as the quarterback 11 or something in quite a good season, but and positional distributions, we're probably going to take 3 quarterbacks anyways, particularly if you're taking cheap ones. So you kind of just need to get lucky with the ping ponging weeks.
And that's another one that, drafters, one of the big differences here is that it is a 20-round draft as opposed to an 18-round draft. So I know that does, you can kind of play it two ways. Either you're getting more darts on these injury away running backs late, or you can wait on quarterback. And I've walked away from a lot of these drafters ones with 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends because it feels like having those extra rounds give you a little bit more flexibility to do that. You aren't really hurting yourself at the other positions the way you are in an 18-round draft.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good way to think about it. I'm thinking we might maybe going to be in a little bit of trouble here at wide receiver. There are like a couple specific guys that we are hoping fall a little bit. Walker going there is nice. Hope we're
Tetaroa
hoping.
McMillan is who I really would like. I've seen him fall into the middle, late fourth. But now that training camp opens and people are starting to see highlights of him, that's pretty much all it takes for him to move up a half round. But yeah, Mike Evans, don't feel great about that. DJ Moore, don't feel great about that. I mean, I might even be willing. Jameson Williams just went off the board, which is who I would have wanted here. George Pickens is getting some steam, though. Devonta Smith, who's the wide receiver that jumps out to you here? Or do you want to look at another position? James Cook is a great value here still. We'd be really running back heavy at that point. Don't like any of the tight ends here, and it's too early for a quarterback. Who are you thinking here?
I think we need to take either Metcalf or Pickens.
Let's go Metcalf just because he's a player that I don't like. I'll reach for George Pickens, and I have quite a bit. I think we're likely to probably get George Pickens. I don't think this guy's starting 4 wide receiver. We have to worry about this 101 draft or maybe double tapping wide receiver here, but I think there's a pretty good chance that we get Pickens with our next pick. And if not, if our contingent fallback option is Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, I don't feel terrible about that either.
I don't feel terrible about that at all. In fact, I actually really like adding Jalen Waddle with this next pick if he's able to come back around to us again. We would have 3 cheap quarterbacks set up, which actually would give us optionality to take like a Justin Fields or a Bo Nix type that you are, or actually maybe Hurts just went, but would have given us the optionality to have taken a Jalen Hurts where we don't even have to worry about stacking the quarterback.
Yeah, so I'm A-okay. I mean, Jalen Waddle would be my preferred pick here. I think he's just a very mispriced player. We've seen this guy win in multiple ways, either as a target hog or as one of the most efficient receivers in the league. So now with, I don't think Tyreek Hill is dust at this point, but you definitely get a little bit concerned about what we saw last year. We saw it early in the season that he looked like the Tyreek Hill of old, but after that wrist injury, it just wasn't the same Tyreek Hill. So Jalen Waddle's still on this monster contract. If Tyreek Hill ends up injured or just not the player he used to be, or maybe even traded, which we've heard some smoke about, Jalen Waddle, I think, is a good pick there. And this is how a lot of my teams look through the first 5 rounds, where I end up with 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. I just think that this is a good way to build your team. I don't really like paying up for any of the quarterbacks or tight ends in this range unless they really, really fall.
No, this is like kind of like the suckers range for any of that stuff. Like the, sort of rounds 5 through 7 are wide receiver running back rounds, and then like you get about halfway through round 8 through round 9 and you're like, man, everyone here is a bad pick other than the quarterbacks, which is just like, it's really interesting. Something I need to try and solve, because so many of my best ball teams end up looking the same, which is obviously not great. You do want to have like a greater diversification. You don't want all of your neighbors' teams to have the same kind of the right side of the board. Like you should be trying to change some of those distributions, particularly actually as the drafters contest has gotten bigger over the years. I've been playing on drafters since they did it their very first year. It was like a super small. I finished third in the main event the first every year they did it. And it was like $1,000 for third because the contest was so small. But as the contest gets bigger, the value of having some unique combos will increase, because there are going to be so many teams that have it, create the league winner in your head. Justin Fields, Byshell Tootin, whoever it might be, there are going to be, I guess I do the math of what's 238,000 entries divided by 12 or whatever. A lot of teams,
10,000 divisions. Yeah.
So you're gonna want a lot of different combos of theoretically the league winning players.
And I think the nice thing is that this time of year, it does kind of like we made it out of the slug, Davis. Like that the last 2 months, there's no real news coming in. ADP doesn't change, and that's when you start drafting a lot of the same players over and over again. Not that I'm ever like wishing for injury, but at the same time, like now training camp's open, players get injured, and opportunities change, and ADP change. So you kind of naturally end up diversifying at this point in the year, just because we might, like I said, just so many things change on its own this year that you don't really need to actively diversify. It kind of happens on its own. So here we are coming up with this next pick here. Running backs on the board. We got David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco, Aaron Jones. Wide receivers, Roma Dunze, Debo Samuel, Jacoby Myers, Chris Godwin. If we want to look at tight ends, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, probably a little bit early for them. And then as far as quarterbacks go, we've got Burrow, Mahomes, Justin Fields. None of those picks are stacked or something that we really want here. Any of those names jump out to you?
Pollard obviously is like a really good fit for the scoring, but I think Rome is our best pick here.
I think so, yeah, especially in the full point PPR. The ceiling for Roman Dunze is so high, and he's a volatile pick, and that's why he's fallen here to us at 70. But the upside that he just kind of works as a supercharged Amon St. Brown out of the slot in Ben Johnson's offense is very alluring. So I like that. Let's kind of talk through this next pick here. Still have some decent wide receivers available, but I also like some of the running backs here. Isaiah Pacheco stands out to me. Tony Pollard stands out to me as well. I'd be happy with either of those. Even if we wanted to go all the way down to Travis Etienne here, I'd be okay with it.
I'm not an ETN drafter. I think Pacheco's very strong for this build.
Yeah, I think so too. The other one would be Diggs. I don't think he went yet. I think somebody might have already drafted Diggs. I didn't.
Yeah, Diggs went over there at the other side of the board.
Ooh,
Diggs
yeah, all the way. So he's really good.
Pick 61. Which I mean, I do think probably ADP is a little slow to respond to good news. I've noticed that recently with Dylan Sampson, that where Sampson is like still kind of going in like the 130s, the 120s, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty certain he's probably just going to be this week 1 starting running back for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe there's more volatility there than I am perceiving at the time, but it's certainly possible.
And I do see in here, Dan Hendry, the guy I mentioned, did really well in this contest last year. He is drafted right here. I didn't even notice at the time at the 7th pick. That is Bengal Buck right there. So one of the sharper drafters we got to look at. And I do want to take a look at his team. This is very on brand for him, kind of attacking this pocket of running backs right here. I was wondering how and why Chase Brown went as early as he did. Now I see who made the pick, and now it makes a little bit more sense. But taking a very similar approach to us, where you're just kind of spending these first 8, 9, 10 picks on your running backs and your wide receivers, knowing that there's just so much value falling late at quarterback and tight end this year. And it's a mix of a few different things. You've got these longtime superstars that are aging out. You've got these veterans who are finding success in their second and third acts with other teams. And then you've also got this influx of really young talent coming in. And it has just flattened the quarterback and tight end field so much that I just don't think it's worth really paying up. But you had mentioned Justin Fields a little bit earlier. He did go off the board, unfortunately. So we missed out on him.
Sad.
Yeah, Fields has been a smash pick for me this year. It's I think a lot of priors bleed into how the market feels about Justin Fields, but at the end of the day, he's just a top 5, top 8 quarterback pretty much every time he steps out on the field. I do like Kyler Murray here as well. Doesn't really work with our build. We can keep looking at some of the running backs and wide receivers: Brian Thomas, Travis Etienne, Jordan Mason, Jalen Warren, J.K. Dobbins, and Zach Charbonnet. I like them at cost, but it might be a little bit early for them. Cooper Kupp, Jaden Higgins, Keon Coleman, Trey Harris, who has been getting some smoke, especially after the Mike Williams retirement. And then flipping over to tight end, we've got Evans, Andrews, Njoku. Who are you looking at with this 94th pick here?
Might make sense to get our first tight end. Trying to think. I'm trying to like weigh the value of Ingram versus kind of locking in a 5th wide receiver, which actually frees us up to kind of take like some rookies later. Man, Mooney and Shaheed went. Shaheed would have been stronger. Can you show me the wide receiver tab real quick?
Yeah, flip over to wide receiver. Cooper Kupp, Jaden Higgins, Keon Coleman.
I think Higgins actually. I think Higgins, and then
we can kind of. I'm guessing one of Ingram or Andrews will make it back to us. Trey McBride already got selected here by the 101 drafter. So if we get Ingram, great. If Ingram gets selected, I think Andrews is a perfectly fine fallback option here.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly, this whole queue of tight ends, this is kind of the range where I take most of them: Ingram, Andrews, Njoku, Warren, Kraft, not Kincaid, Loveland. I do really like all those guys.
And Kraft, you can usually get him a little bit later. Like we could probably get him in round 11 if we wanted to wait on it. Do you have a lean between Andrews or Ingram? I personally prefer Andrews, but it's so close that I don't really care that much.
I would be Ingram.
All right.
Yeah. In just more specifically in this format, Ingram I think is like a pretty strong favorite to score more points per game than Andrews this year, but I would also wager Andrews will have a higher. Well, actually, maybe I'm thinking about this in reverse. I would say I would wager Andrews's highest scoring game in 2025 will be higher than Ingram's highest scoring game. But I honestly, I guess like spike weeks are truly the only thing that matters in this format. Floor games actually matter way less. So I think maybe I was wrong about that.
Yeah, but also if you're looking overall, I mean, I think you can probably project more targets going to Ingram than you can to Andrews, just the low passing volume in Baltimore. Andrews did see a pretty concerning dip in target share last year, where Ingram just ends up being the guy that he was in Jacksonville, where he's pulling 120 plus targets. You might not get the crazy spike weeks, but you might get a lot more playable weeks, which if we're looking at a build where it's Ingram and, like let's just say we strike out on our tight ends, we go for a Chigakonkwo or a Jatavian Sanders or something that ends up being a 0, you could still pencil in decent production for Ingram. So I can kind of talk myself into it either way. What I'd really hope here, and it's a name you threw out earlier, was Bo Nix. If Bo Nix makes it back to us at 118, I mean, that would be a pretty far fall from ADP. But this is that range where you will see people start reaching to get more stacks with their quarterbacks. So we might see Dak Prescott, JJ McCarthy, Jared Goff going ahead of Bo Nix. I think that would be the ideal next pick if he falls to us. But we'll throw him in the queue just in case. But looking at some of the running backs and wide receivers in this range, or do we want to double tap tight end and walk away with a Njoku or a Tucker Kraft like you had mentioned?
I think Njoku actually would be strong. I agree with you that Nix, okay, he just went. That's actually, just hit at something pretty strong, which is that great way to have higher projected teams than the field. Just take the ADP fallers. Yep. Like if you're just in a drafters room and you're like, wow, well, this guy's here around after ADP, great way to capture a well projected roster is to just take a team of fallers.
Exactly, yeah. And it's also a good way to diversify your portfolio a little bit, not necessarily get in the same players over and over, just kind of get in the ADP fallers. So we've got Njoku in the queue right now. Looking at the quarterbacks here, none of these are quarterbacks that maybe we want to, if they do fall below ADP, I'm okay with it. It's probably too early for CJ Stroud, but all these guys sitting atop the board: Goff, Herbert, Love, Stroud, none of them work with our current build as far as stacking goes. So we've got the Tyrone Tracy, Ramondre Stevenson, Jaden Blue, Rashad Bateman, Brandon Ayuk, Marvin Mims, Hollywood Brown. Oh, never mind. Njoku fell to us. So this is the obvious pick here, right? It's taking Njoku.
Yeah, easy, I think.
And then are you okay with I imagine we're just doing a 2 tight end build here, right? There's no reason for a tight end 3 when you got Ingram and Njoku.
I mean, we'll see like what happens. The thing is I think we bought ourselves a lot of flexibility with the skill positions, because like it's actually very rare to have teams where you feel good at running back and at wide receiver. But I mean, we could get away with maybe just 3 or just 5 running backs on this team. Not to say, I mean, we could just do the classic, the 3-6-8-3, which would work. I mean,
do we want to go with the quarterback here? I'm
we
looking.
could take. I was gonna say we could take Herbert. There's some back stacks available. I actually quite like. Yeah, let's do that. I guess
Something else
maybe
I've
I
said
wish.
a lot with Herbert is you look historically. I mean, obviously he's had rushing quarterbacks, but Greg Roman always wants his quarterbacks rushing. And last year, Herbert started off the year with that high ankle sprain. But if you look over the second half of the year, he was giving you about 30 rushing yards per game, which really pads the floor and gives you a nice ceiling. So I'm excited for the Chargers, as it seems like everybody is every July. So let's hope that it actually translates to in-season play. But yeah, getting Justin Herbert there, I'll probably just get ahead. I think I know who you were. I don't know if you're a Quentin Johnson guy. It looks like Trey Harris might have already gone off the board.
Yeah, he went. I was gonna say, I wish we could go back in time and just take Trey Harris over Jaden Higgins, but sadly they're not gonna let us. They're not gonna, you never know.
No trades in drafters to my knowledge, but also, man, Quentin Johnson just went off the board, but seeing some fun plays from Keandre Lambert-Smith too. I don't know if you've seen those highlights hitting the timeline. Don't want to overreact too much.
Oh yeah, no, there was a nice Keandre Lambert-Smith one yesterday. I mean, he is the most prototypical Mike Williams replacement on the roster. So,
and him going out and making that leaping grab and just like completely just belly flopping into the turf, very reminiscent of Mike Williams. So yeah, I think we're probably looking at Trey Harris getting that role, but Keandre Lambert-Smith, a guy that we'll probably be able to walk out of in round 20 if we really wanted to. And then even the tight ends there, Gadsden has been getting steam since rookie OTAs. I mean, they were hyping him up immediately after the NFL draft. So I do like getting Herbert there, even if we can't stack him. I think that we're looking at potential top 5, top 8 production from Herbert. And if he does that, it doesn't matter if you've got him stacked or not. But this is typically the area of the draft where I like to hammer quarterbacks a little bit. But like we said, where we drafted earlier, we're set up for Matthew Stafford here. We're set up for Aaron Rodgers. We're set up for Tua Tagovailoa. We don't really have to pay up. Caleb Williams went off the board, unfortunately, already. We do have Jaden Higgins, so we can look at CJ Stroud potentially with our next pick. Is that something you might be thinking about here with 142 is going CJ Stroud?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of our obvious pick, right? We have Higgins. We can take Schultz later.
Stroud off the board. As soon as we say a name, he's gone. It's like clockwork on this one.
Another guy, I believe, I have to check my stuff right now, but I think Cam Ward is my most drafted quarterback right now. I mean, I don't have any strong opinions about how good or how bad he is or whatever. I mean, I think he probably is okay, but it feels a little bit strange in this day and age where everyone is so hip to rookies and so youth obsessed that the number 1 overall pick in the draft is a 14th, 15th round pick. That's very against type for the fantasy football community. So I like him as a third quarterback potentially in this build.
Yeah, he's been one. I had to check, but definitely a top 3 one for me. But let's go through here and look. We could go Jordan Love, Penix, or Bryce Young here. We've also got Garendo, Bashal Tuten, a name that you mentioned.
I was gonna say let's take him or Garendo. I don't care. I don't care which one. Those guys are like
just my tickets. Yeah.
Well, they're like my time machine guys. Like if I could know their playing time ahead of time. My operational philosophy is I want to have one of Garendo or James on like most of my teams.
Right.
And I'm a CMC drafter. I like him quite a bit. I think it's like crazy that the best fantasy football player in my lifetime is a rat pick, but I mean, he is a 29-year-old running back coming back from Achilles tendinopathy. Like it might be over for him,
So if Tutin's here with the next pick, is that who we're going with at 147? Because I'd be okay with that. Just going to Garendo and Tutin, just giving us 2.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think positionally. Like it is really nice. I tell you what, he went. I was gonna say, Dubs, Wandale, Liget. I mean, this is a good range to take our 6 wide receiver.
Wandale in the full PPR. Like he might suck, but if he has that same role as last year, it's not going to be too bad for PPR league. So I'm okay going with Wandale Robinson here, unless you want to go Xavier Legette to open us up for Bryce later.
Well, I guess Wandale. I like Wandale opens this up for Russ or Dart if we'd like.
How about Dart throwing a pick six on his first pass attempt today? Are you putting any weight in that?
No, that I will say though, I did think it was a little strange that Daboll was so adamant that Russ is going to be the starter. Like generally speaking, you'd think after taking a first round quarterback, you'd be like, oh sure, Russ is the starter, but these guys are going to be working. We're going to see. But he was like, no, Russell Wilson is our starter, which I think is it's a little. Oh man, okay, we're going to actually eat the blade
Yeah,
here.
we just got wrecked on
Yeah,
that QB run.
that's
That's tough
pretty.
to see.
Yeah, this might end up being well,
Forfeit.
actually, I don't hate taking Anthony Richardson, but this is going to be a team where our third quarterback is not a guaranteed 17 game starter.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do sometimes. The nice thing, I will say, we're probably going to get Rodgers or Stafford. I mean, I don't want to jinx it. Let's see where Puka went here at the 10th pick. So if Stafford makes it past 159, I'd imagine that we'll probably be able to even wait until 171 at that point. But this is the pick right here where we want to see if Stafford's going to make it past or not. I can't imagine anybody else is going to go for Stafford earlier than that. But yeah, this is I don't want to say a trap, but this is something that I've fallen into a few times where you always see all of these quarterbacks kind of going in the middle rounds and you pass on quarterbacks and then there's a big quarterback run. And then before you know it, you're just kind of SOL. But Stafford, Geno, Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, do you think we're at a point where we have kind of painted ourselves into a corner and we have to go quarterback with these next two picks?
I don't think we do. I guess it depends on the quality of the one that's available. Like if Stafford and Geno go and we're left at Darnold, Rodgers, then yeah, I think we probably just have to bite it. If we're able to get if no quarterback goes and we're able to get Stafford or whatever, then I think we can play, we can play it for Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Russell Wilson, Tyler Shough,
Yeah.
Jackson Dart. But our quarterback room is certainly it's thinner than we'd want it to be.
But I mean, when you start a draft with 8 running backs and wide receivers, then you go tight end, you do kind of have to pick your poison here. And if there's one position I'm okay being a little bit weaker at this year, it's quarterback, just because, like you said, there are so many late options that we can throw out there. So Stafford did make it past the Puka drafter. So still waiting a few more spots, but hoping he could fall to us at 166. And then I guess the other question, here at 171, do you think that we just go with Rodgers here if he's available? I mean, Stafford, Rodgers, is this what we'd want to do with these two picks if possible?
I wonder if once you get Stafford, you're like, okay, we've got Stafford and Herbert. Let's just
Play
shoot
chicken
for the moon. Well, no, I was gonna say, let's set up Richardson as the third. Like
there you go.
Because Justin Herbert, sure, maybe he could finish quarterback 5, but like Stafford and Rodgers are just they're like not gonna finish as top 10 quarterbacks. Like we will not be winning first place in this with that as our quarterback room. I'd be stunned. But Richardson, we could get 8 really good games of Richardson. So I think we definitely take Stafford with Adams. Positionally, I don't know what's our running back wide receiver group looking like. Maybe it just does make sense to take the quarterback here.
And you also talk about like shooting for the moon. We did get Wan'Dale Robinson. We know Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert are going to be starting the season. I don't hate Jackson Dart. There's some rushing upside there that I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't talk about. Like, Dart and Wan'Dale Robinson. Maybe that's what we do to really set up for the high end range of outcomes on this team. Rodgers goes off the board there, so we don't even have that option, which I'm kind of happy that drafter took Rodgers, because I didn't want to be tempted to take him here because I really didn't want him. So looking at the running backs, we got Braylon Allen and Will Shipley, 2 guys that I've been drafting quite a lot of this offseason. Looking at the wide receivers, we can set up, Demario Douglas, Josh Palmer, Jack Bash, Diami Brown, Alec Pierce, Michael Wilson, Deontay Thornton. Looking over to the tight ends.
Let's just take Richardson. We're gonna be too annoyed. I've actually been kind of doing this with myself recently. Like, you're gonna be too annoyed whatever the 2v2 is if you don't get your quarterback. There's almost no round 16 pick that you like enough to be like, oh man, I got sniped at my quarterback, but thank goodness, man, I got Michael Wilson or whatever. It's just not how it works.
And we got this commenter saying, just remember, you're just betting against Daniel Jones, and it's that easy. And I think that is a pretty good bet to make.
Really? Yeah.
I've been sprinkling in some Daniel Jones here and there, but it did seem like, people probably overreacted a little bit to that.
I was going to say that one kind of depends on my mood. You
Yeah.
know, like sometimes I'm like, yeah, dude, just play it safe. You know, get Daniel Jones. But then sometimes I'm like, you know what? All your entries are probably going to lose anyways. It's the very top heavy game, so you might as well try and get Anthony Richardson.
So we're good with quarterbacks now. We might add another tight end late, but with these final 5 picks, let's just go ahead, pull the team up here so everybody can see what we're working with right now. So we got
I think we'll definitely take a third tight end because I think there is a really I think Gadsden is probably really low drafted in this
yeah.
contest, which is a huge plus, and we do not have another Charger yet.
Exactly, yeah, and I almost earlier, I was like, Josh Palmer, completely forgetting that he got traded to the Bills. You know, it's a long offseason and some stuff slips through the cracks here. So, Keenan Allen is another guy that I've just been taking nonstop in round 16. I don't know how you feel about him. We just got a report earlier today that
I
a
was going to
lot of
say
teams
that report
receivers.
had me feeling pretty. Just to know that he's still thinking about football is pretty big because
He
he's
better
definitely
be,
going to
because I
sign.
got 45% Keenan Allen right now, so he better be thinking about coming back to play, or I've got a lot of dead rosters out there.
That's buddy, that's a lot of Keenan. I mean, I don't think it's bad though. I certainly do not.
Yeah, and it's just my whole thing is like I don't think he's going to sign like the Bengals aren't going to bring him in to be like the fourth option on the team. I think whoever does sign him is probably going to have plans for him and want to use him a little bit. He was ninth in target share last year. Like Keenan Allen, he's not washed. He still is the target magnet that he was early in his career. Just dealt with some injuries and a low scoring offense as a whole, but looking with this next pick, yeah, we've got 4 running backs, we've got 6 wide receivers, 3 quarterbacks, so we're good there, and we'll probably want to save that 19th or 20th round pick for Rondé Gatson. But I think we can go pretty comfortably running back or wide receiver here. Is there anybody that jumps out to you specifically? We're looking at the wide receivers right now: Diami Brown, Alec Pierce, Jalen Noel, Darius Slayton, Keenan Allen, Calvin Austin. Looking at the running backs: Justice Hill,
Let's do
Miles
your boy.
Sanders.
Let's take Keenan, man.
Let's go ahead and
This
queue him
this
up.
is a team. This is a team that's honestly really strong at wide receiver. So it kind of doesn't kill us if Keenan is not great, and it's
Right.
just like nothing but like again. Let me tell you, go look at any of your your favorite teams, your winning teams in
They're
best
all going
ball.
to have 8 dead
More
spots on them.
more zeros than you think, man. More
Right.
more guys who were clear bust than you would ever imagine.
So looking at this is also too like once you get past Keenan Allen, I'm just not really enthralled by any of these wide receivers. You know, we're really shooting in the dark there. We talked about maybe a Keandre Lambert Smith a little bit later, or Rondé Gatson, but I think that the running back value in these late rounds is just so much better. Marshawn Lloyd jumps out to me. Rashard Smith is another one that jumps out to me. Who is it that you're looking at in these late rounds at running back?
I do really like Miles Sanders.
Oh,
God,
good. Same.
heaven forbid, man. It's just insane. But I mean, I basically right now I think Javonte, Blue, and Sanders are literal. Like I think it's 33%, 33%, 33%. Who's
Yep.
starting for them? So the cheapest one is probably good.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And JJ Zacharyson has done studies on this before where he says that we are more often right than wrong when it comes to deciphering these ambiguous
Mhm.
backfields. But I don't know. Jaden Blue, I think you're a Jaden Blue guy, Davis. I wasn't the biggest fan of the prospect, but Alfredo Brown, my co-host, loves Jaden Blue, and I think that he kind of would rely on some outside zone touches. But if you can get him out in space, I mean, he's got speed that nobody else in this backfield has. Javonte Williams, really exciting prospect, but just a husk of who he used to be after that
Yeah,
injury.
sad.
And Miles Sanders, I just think it's kind of crazy that everybody has just decided that he's third in the race when I think, like you said, his job is potentially just as likely as anybody else in this backfield. But looking at our roster right now, we still aren't really in a position where we need to force anything. We could take a running back here. We could take a wide receiver here. We might be good on running back. Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Isaiah Pacheco, Isaac Rendo, and Miles Sanders. I think I'd be okay with those 5. But if we want to add another one, also okay with that.
I mean, we could add another one. I mean, I'll tell you what, our tight ends really are not great. I sometimes I have done this. I've even taken 4 on drafters just
Yeah.
because like it's such a honestly one, it's a position that is totally dictated by touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you just run the right weeks of Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson, Dalton Kincaid, and Rondé Gatson, and you get the touchdown weeks.
Yeah.
Just right, it's pretty useful.
And tight ends still count in the flex too. So even if you have 2 tight ends going off in the
True.
same week, you can still put one in your flex. Not the way you're thinking it's going to work out when you're drafting the team, but I've looked at a lot of weeks where I end up with that tight end 3 getting my flex points for me. So Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson still available here. Looking at the wide receivers, nobody really that piques my interest too much at this point. Running backs, Kendry Miller, Blake Corum, still keeping the light on for those guys, even if I shouldn't be. But who do you want to take with this next pick? Is there anyone you want me to throw me in the queue?
Normally I'm such a Brashard Smith guy, but we already he
He
actually
already
went
went,
any
yeah. Yeah.
but we already have we already have Pacheco. You know what? Let's just do Corum or Tucker. These are guys who project terribly, but they project terribly because we don't project injuries.
Exactly right.
I
And,
also do
and
like Theo Johnson if you wanted to do that. He's kind
let's
of the last like real tight end.
I do agree there. Let's go with Blake Corum on this one. You threw his name out there, and I think this is one of those. We just saw this a few years ago with Kyron Williams, right? Like Kyron Williams took a blank his rookie season and then was a league winner the year after. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with Blake Corum, but we see Sean McVay historically does not like to ask too much of rookie running backs. So everybody's just decided that now Jarquez Hunter is the injury away guy. But I think Corum, the little bit that we saw from him his rookie season, he looked good. I'm okay throwing Theo Johnson in here. We also talked about Oronde Gadsden. Is this how you'd like to finish these last 2 picks if we can go Theo and Gadsden? Or do you think that we just reach for Gadsden now to guarantee that we get that Herbert stack?
Yeah, you know what? We've said it enough times. I think we just take him and then we could do it. Yeah, I'll give you another really, really sneaky one that I kind of like in 20-round drafts is Fannin. My boy Pat Carrain loves Fannin. I took me a little bit to get hip to it.
We've already got Njoku. How do you feel about that? Njoku and Fannin on
You know
the same
what?
team?
Because Fannin's way to get there, I actually don't think is related to Njoku at all. I think
He's an
it's
H-back.
basically, yeah. Like I think it's more kind of like him, like Deontay Johnson not working out and them trying to play Jamari Thrash as a third wide receiver, slot wide receiver, and just being like, all right, well, we're gonna play Fannin.
I don't hate that. I mean, Fannin was a guy that I really, really liked early in the process. And then you're plugged in during this time of year. You know how it goes. Like, disappointing combine and then slides 1 round later than we expected him to go in the draft. And then everybody just writes him off for dead. But the reality is he's on a team with a wide open depth chart. Dynasty, I've been drafting a lot of Fannin. He's a guy I haven't drafted in a single best ball league yet. So I'm okay getting a little bit diverse here and sprinkling some of him in. We did have Theo Johnson go off the board immediately after our pick, which is the other
That's
name
always how it goes.
around. So let's throw Fannin in here. A guy that I really, really like the prospect and haven't drafted in best ball yet. Why not? Or do we want to go with the round 19, round 20 double stack in Keandre Lambert Smith should still be
maybe
you
know what? Let's do that, man. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's probably 1% drafted on this app. I think we should do Keandre Lambert. Plus, it's just a little bit of a style pick. Like to take my zeros with some style, and Keandre Lambert is a stylish zero.
It is, yeah. We are the suckers that fell for the camp clip, but really good catch if you haven't seen it yet. I mean, just stretches out, gets both feet down, and then belly flops into the turf. Really, really fun one there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one now that we are all finished here. I mean, this is pretty much what you'd expect in these early rounds. I'm gonna close out of this. This is what you'd expect, just going real heavy with the running backs and wide receivers early. We got Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor to start, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, Roma Dunze. Then we went with a third running back in Isaiah Pacheco, brought in Jaden Higgins. And I think this was the one. Who was it that we were talking about over Jaden Higgins? I can't remember, but I think
Harris.
That's right, Trey Harris. And I think that would have worked better with Herbert. But either way, I'm fine with this. Evan Ingram and David Njoku, and then Justin Herbert, Isaac Rendo, Wan'Dale Robinson. I got to say, man, for 11, 14, and 15 round quarterbacks, walking away with Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, and Anthony Richardson, you're getting a potential top 5 quarterback in Justin Herbert. You're getting a reasonably safe week-to-week floor with Anthony Richardson. And then we've got the ceiling pick, or a reasonably safe floor with Matthew Stafford. And we've got the correlation there with Devontae Adams, and then the ceiling pick with Anthony Richardson. So I like that. My boy Keenan Allen, who I've been drafting in just about every single league, Miles Sanders and Blake Corum, who I think are just very mispriced, and then just the fun 19 and 20 pick to close out the double Chargers stack. Looking back at this draft, is there anything that you think you would have changed here?
No, I mean, I think honestly, we kind of just did well with the hand that we were dealt. Like maybe not taking Njoku and just like doing a backstack with like Dak. Like we're gonna take Jake Ferguson or Jalen Tolbert or something. Guerrero, I thought was strong. Wandale, I mean, I always love Wandale in full PPR. And I actually, with the running backs we have, the combo of Guerrero and Corum,
Yeah.
like they're only hitting our lineups if they really, really hit, and it's not that difficult to see Corum, like, guys turn their ankles all the time. We don't hope for it. We don't go into the season hoping guys get hurt, but we know guys are going to get hurt. We don't know which ones. So you just have to structure your bets the right way.
I also want to take a look real quickly too, since we got another football guy staffer. If you could just humor me here, Davis, and take a look at this team. This one right here from the 7th spot, Bengal Buck. This is our friend Dan Hendry, who won the contest last year. Brian Thomas, Chase Brown, O'Marion Hampton, Alvin Kamara, and he has talked a lot about really liking that sweet spot for running backs this year. Chase Brown, O'Marion Hampton, and Alvin Kamara. I'd feel great about that trio. Then Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, Emeka Egbuka, Darnell Mooney. Walked away with some mid-round quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, Michael Penix. Tucker Kraft has been another Dan Hendry favorite going in round 10 there. Cedric Tillman is a guy that I just talked about as one of my favorite dynasty buys on our show with Jeff Bell that's going to come out on Friday afternoon. So had a pretty in-depth dive on Cedric Tillman. Then Chicago, Braylon Allen, Diami Brown, Brashard Smith, Jalen Royals, Pat Fryermuth, Ray McLeod. Drafted a lot of the late round guys, names that we were throwing around here. I don't really have any holes to pick in that. I think that he executed a pretty flawless draft there. And if everything works out, I love that Lawrence, Brian Thomas, Hunter stack. I don't know if you've been doing that much, but I am so in, like disgustingly in on the Jaguars offense this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm overweight all of those guys, doing a lot of bets on Lawrence over like the quarterbacks who directly surround. Honestly, more Jaguars than Chargers, more Jaguars than Texans. That's very funny. Still made him pay for. They make you pay for water at the Luxor these days.
Dude, they
I
make you
haven't
pay
been
for
I
everything.
was gonna say I've not been to Vegas since before COVID. It's been a long time, but the last time I was there, I literally the only thing I remember paying for was the Fiji water from the mini bar in the room. Everything else I
Yeah,
remember
like $25.
being free.
Yeah, I stopped at a Starbucks last time we were in Vegas on my way to the gym in the morning. You know those protein boxes where it's like an old wrinkly hard-boiled egg and then like cheese and apple slices. I got one of those protein boxes and a coffee and it was $19. Like they nickel and dime you everywhere, but that's
It's
Vegas for
crazy,
you.
dude. It's crazy. They're making, and they're trying to keep you away from it, bro.
Yeah, like I didn't lose enough at the roulette table. Now you're gonna rob me again the next morning at
Exactly.
the Starbucks. But Davis, man, want to appreciate you for making the time today. It's always a fun time of year getting to meet some new people that I haven't talked with very much. So appreciate you making the time today. Hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future. Before we log off here, one more time, let everyone know where they can find your content, YouTube channel, when you're going live, guest spots you got, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, all my stuff over at youtube.com/@Davis Mattek. All my rankings, writing, all that stuff's over at patreon.com/Davis Mattek. Basically, you just put my name in a website and it's gonna populate my stuff. It's all tied to my name. So I hope to see you guys around.
And thanks to everybody who tuned in today. As always, we'll be back every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern right here at youtube.com/footballguysfantasy. So be sure to drop a subscription here. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. We'll be back next week along with other live streams, all the fantasy football shows that we have coming out, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.